Good afternoon, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. Oh, I have that echo. TGI Sports Talks MLB update. Oh, my headset sounds a little funny today, but hope you guys are hearing me okay. Want to apologize. Oh, I'll get into that in a little bit. Want to welcome everybody watching today on Facebook. TGI Sports Talks Facebook feed, our YouTube feed, our Twitter feed. We're also live on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube. Well, we're live on YouTube and Facebook on Northeast Streaming Sports, but we're also live on their Roku channel, which you can go to the Roku app and download for free to check out Northeast Streaming Sports. Lots of great content. And all these shows, all of my shows are either aired live, most of them are, or delayed. And these shows will repeat at midnight each night that they air as well. Also, besides Northeast Streaming Sports, we got Let's Talk Sports. We're on their YouTube feed today, and they've got some great content over there, so make sure you check them out as well. And a lot of them pop in and say hello. And special thanks to all the groups that do let us share to them. Again, I've been singling out the sports authorities. I've been singling out the Bottom Line Sports, some great stuff being done by those guys. And the Bottom Line Sports has a pretty good podcast of their own, so check them out. Shout out to Ralph Williams over there at RW Media. He does some great stuff in the Pittsburgh area and nationwide, and specifically the sports corner that he does with Smoke and Jim Frazier every Tuesday from 4 to 6 Eastern Time, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on WBVP radio. So check that out. And thumbs up DDH. Lots to talk about today in baseball. We'll talk about, whether your team's hot or cold and whether you're happy with the team's start. Yankees off to a great start. Giants to such a great start. Mets not off to such a great start. We'll look at some of the surprises the first week. We have a no-hitter in the first week of the season. A surprising no-hitter. So we'll get into all of that. First thing I want to chat about real quickly, and we'll talk about it on each of the shows this weekend, the Sunday Stream of Consciousness, and then next Friday we'll get into it more. But after a lot of this is all good news for me. After a lot of soul searching, if you will, and a little prodding here and there, I've decided to go back to my roots a little bit. On Fridays at 9 a.m., the Are You Serious show will be disbanded. Are You Serious with the Mad New Yorker we will no longer do. We will instead go back to TGI Sports Talks one-on-one with Keith Engle. So we'll bring in guests. Again, we started this show, this channel, if you will, this whatever we want to call what we have, this podcast, doing interviews with former ball players in basketball, coaches, ball players, reporters. We covered the Major League Baseball, we covered NFL, we covered the NHL, we covered the NBA. We had guys like Kermit Washington, Roy White, Eric Soderholm, Todd Stottlemyre, Daryl Knowles, Denny McClain, Louis Tion. We had some great interviews. And I kind of pushed it aside. Then I started doing more opinion related topics and audience interactions, and I enjoyed that. I absolutely enjoy that part of it. But I really like doing the interviews. I know a lot of my viewers like the interviews and have been prodding me to get back into it, and I'm going to do just that. As a rule, and we'll talk more about it next Friday. We're going to have a 9 a.m. show. It's going to be, one-on-one with Keith Engle, but it's only going to be Keith Engle in the audience, maybe. And the Mad New Yorker may join us to sign off, if you will, and maybe tell us about some of his future endeavors. But we will start the interview process next week, and our guest will be former Twin and Oriole, Tiger, Blue Jay, Marty Cordova, who had a really great career, Rookie of the Year, obviously in his rookie year. Played under one of the great managers, and to me, one of the most underrated managers in baseball, especially in recent times, Tom Kelly. but I'll have him, and it's going to be in this time slot next week only. Marty's on the West Coast and has a routine that does not allow him to get on at that early hour out there. But my plan is to every Friday at 9 a.m. go live with our interview guest that day. I know, and Chris Efron, Efron. Who's Chris Efron? Chris Efgrave, who's become a very loyal follower of this show, has offered to, find some of these guests for me. And I've got a list of my own that I had. Started reaching out to people just in the last couple days. But we've got a couple people lined up, thanks to Chris, actually. Marty Cordova next week, as I said. Kevin Mensch, former Texas Ranger, really good ball player in his time. And some other guests that we'll talk about going down the road. And there's a lot of people in my mind that I've wanted to talk to in a while. If anybody out there is following anybody on social media and has a way for me to contact them and they want me to consider bringing them in, we'll certainly take your suggestions. But again, I really appreciate Chris helping me out here. If you remember, and I do want to give a shout out here, you see me do thumbs up DDH start of every show. And one of the reasons I do that is because I started with Dan Harris from Let's Talk Sports. Dan Harris, who, as you know, started up Let's Talk Sports. He and I did a Let's Talk New York Sports show on Fridays. And Dan suffered from some physical ailments that had him housebound and whatnot. And he started doing this. He became a very, very good friend. He was over in England. And Dan's condition worsened last year. He was helping me try to get back. We were trying to get back into it. He wanted some of that content for Let's Talk Sports, and I wanted to get back into it. And we did interviews that Dan was able to set up for me, and I followed up with some of the people that we kind of put on hold after Dan got ill again. But we got Dick Drago on, who just sadly passed away recently. We had Del Williams, former Dolphins running back. We had some really good people that we got on. And Dan, sadly, his condition worsened. He passed away, unfortunately, late last year or fall of last year, I guess. And we missed Dan a lot. But I've decided to move back in that direction, and we'll talk more about it, as I said, Sunday Stream of Consciousness and whatnot. But I want to get into some baseball now, so we'll talk about that stuff as we go along. This isn't a reflection of anybody, or especially not the Mad New Yorker. I enjoyed our time doing that show, and I just feel like, I cover a lot of the topics that we cover on Fridays and other shows, and I want to get back into this format, so we'll talk about that as we go. Who's with us right now? Dave Guyette. Good afternoon, Dave Guyette. Big Yankee fan. We've had a bunch of Yankees on in the interview portion of the show. Ron Bloomberg, Roy White, just to name a couple. Todd Stottlemyre, son of former great pitcher Mel Stottlemyre. So we've had quite a few. What do you got? Yankees are playing right now, right? Down 1-0. Great start for the Yankees at 6-1. Bad news for the Yankees today, though, is Loaizaga goes on the DL again. I've said, you've heard me say over and over again that the last couple of years, the key to the Yankee bullpen, I think, is Loaizaga, because he can do everything. He can close. He can pitch middle relief. He can be the setup man. He can do it all, but he's always hurt now. He's got a tendon problem in his right elbow. You start thinking Tommy John when you hear those, hear that type of thing. So hopefully that's not going to be the case. But bad news for the Yankees. But they are off to a good start, and we'll talk more about them as we go along as well. Good afternoon to Steve Orpello. Good to have you with us. So Amsterdam, Perth as well, well represented here today. By the way, big story here in New York. Well, pretty much a lot of the Northeast. I'm the only person, apparently, that did not feel the earthquake that we had this morning at about 9:48, I guess. I think it was. My wife comes running downstairs. Everybody I was talking to at work on Teams was messaging me, did you feel that? Did you feel that? And I'm like, feel what? I never felt it, but apparently we had a 4.8 earthquake. That I think the epicenter was around 45, 48 miles away from New York City and New Jersey. And some people up here got rattled around pretty good. So hopefully everybody's safe. I think there's some funny memes on Facebook. And again, 4.8, we don't get a lot of earthquakes here, but we do sit on one of the largest faults in New York, in the U.S. here in New York State. It's not a, I don't know what the term is, active fault or risky fault, at least at the moment, like California has. But again, we get shook around pretty good today. So anyway, Chris F. Grave, who I mentioned earlier, Tour, much more quiet and mature man over the past few years, and he's still only 30 years old. How's that come up? How did that was a bit of a Steve didn't feel the earthquake either, so I'm not the only one who was oblivious to the earthquake today. I wonder, Chris, did you feel it up there in Toronto or Ontario, I should say? Terry Ryzak, good afternoon. Christie fell out of bed. Oh, that's not cool, but it's funnier now. Oh, Yankees signed Odor this afternoon. Okay, that news is news to me today. So, and again, Odor had a run with the Yankees, as you remember, a couple of years ago. Had a decent couple of years with the Rangers. I want to say off the top of my head. It's funny because I just updated the what do you call it? I did not see that come across. So anyway, we'll see what Odor can provide the Yankees. But they did feel the earthquake in the Yankee Stadium. They continue to prepare for the game. Although, by the way, they have moved the start of the Marlins game Monday from 1 o'clock until 6 o'clock because of the this total eclipse of the sun. Who's saying that? Who's saying that? Which everybody's, I don't get it. We've had total eclipses of the suns before. We'll have them again. I know we don't get to see them here in this part of the country with 98% coverage or whatever, but I'm just not excited about it. I don't see the need to close schools. I don't see the need. I mean, for safety, the Yankees say they postponed this game. Shouldn't you be smart enough not to look directly at a eclipse by now? Anyway, oh God, we'll look around the league here a little bit. Some other news before I go around the league. The A's have a new home after this year. We know they're moving to Vegas, but probably not until 28. Well, that's their target date. But for 25, 26, and 27, they are moving to Sacramento and probably appropriately into a 10,000-seat stadium, which are going to make, I think, 14,000. And they're going to share it with the Bees. The team, their minor league team up there, it's owned by the Sacramento Kings. The majority owners are the Sacramento Kings. Well, I guess it's appropriate that a team that really plays at a minor league level will play in a minor league park. And they will not bring the moniker of Oakland with them. They will not go by Sacramento, from what I hear, Sacramento A's. They will go by just Athletics or A's for those 3 years. City of Oakland, you brought this upon yourselves. Fans of Oakland, you brought this upon yourselves by not supporting this team. Again, I realize one of the worst stadium situations in the league, but you've got to support your team. And you've got to stop wanting municipalities, whether it's states. Here in New York, we've got the state building helping to fund a new stadium for the Buffalo Bills. Most of the stadiums around baseball and football are publicly funded, and taxpayer money is paying for it. You've got to stop doing this. The Royals and the Chiefs, their future in Kansas City is in doubt because the voters just voted down a referendum that would have added a new tax for them to help fund a new stadium for these teams. Guys, you got to find a way to privately fund these things. If you want billion-dollar stadiums, you got to find a way to make this happen on your own. Similar to what Bob Kraft has done. We talked about this before. There are some privately funded stadiums around. But in any event, there's some news for you. What else is going on? I'll get a couple comments. Let me catch these up. And Chris, I did give you a thank you. And I talked about the start of the new, the reboot of One-on-One with Keith Engle on TGI Sports Talk. Next Friday we will start. It will be every Friday at 9 a.m. Next Friday you'll only see me as we will talk a little bit about some of the plans for that show. And we will have an interview that day at 3 p.m. with Marty Cordova, former Twin, Tiger, Oriole. Most of his success, his main success was with the Twins. Had a bit of a revival with the Tigers, I know, and Cleveland, I think. What else going on? And I wanted to thank Chris for helping me get Marty, and first couple of guests anyway will be from him. So we'll have some fun with that. Other news: Marlins, one of the best young prospects in baseball. Perez, I'm trying to think of his first name right now. Let me pull it up here because I'm going to say it wrong anyway. Yuri Perez, that one's not that hard. I'm going to have Tommy John surgery. This is, again, injuries to pitchers all over the league. So I keep telling you the problem is they don't throw enough. I get argued back and forth, right? I mean, good. We had a no-hitter this week. Ronel Blanco, 30 years old, and only his 8th career start for the Astros. Well, not for all 4 of the Astros. He's 30 years old and had 7 starts before this over the past, I want to say 7 seasons. But he's never even pitched in a game where he didn't give up a home run, much less a hit. He pitches a no-hitter this week, so congratulations to him. Rick Sherlock, good afternoon. Good to have you with us. I know Rick will be happy. We're going back to the interviews. I know he likes that. Has always given me great praise, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's take a quick look around the league real quick. Look at a couple of scores, I guess, before we move on too far here. Where's my scoreboard? Is that it? Doesn't look right. Nah, whatever. Just a couple of scores real quick, and then we'll go around the league a little bit and see who started off hot and who started off cold. The Blue Jays lead the red-hot Yankees right now, 1-0, as Dave Guyette had said earlier. That game is in the 7th inning, bottom of the 7th. They're moving along there. The game started at, it's 1:30. Well, that's not too bad. Tigers, the surprising Tigers, or not. I picked the Tigers to win a wild card. They've gotten off 5-1. Right now, they're tied 4-4 with the A's, who are, off to their usual great start, on a pace to set a record for losses. I'm not going to stop bashing the A's all year. I'm telling you right now. The Cubs up 5-2 over the Dodgers. Dansby Swanson's hit a home run in that game, and then we've got a bunch of games later. We'll get into the schedule a little bit later on. And feel free to add your comments. How's your team doing? How are you surprised? Are you happy? What are you happy with? What are you upset about? It's funny too. And again, I know I'm going off. As I fixed the lighting, and if you've noticed, I think the lighting in the studio is much improved the last couple of weeks. I had to make some adjustments, and I thought I had them once I had moved my studio when we moved last summer, and things kind of started to degrade. So I made some changes, but the problem is now I see just how gray my hair is. The little bit of hair I have left. There you can see right here. Look at all that gray. My God. What's a man 40 years old got all that gray hair for? 40. Doesn't he wish? 64 in a few months. Jeez. All right, baseball. Yankees 6-1 outscored. Listen, here's the thing. It's very interesting. The Yankees playing close games. for the most part. They're 6-1. Their run differential is only 7, +7. Winning close games are really important. Juan Soto has fit in, played very well, been timely hitting. Cabrera's played well. Volpe has played well. Judge hasn't hit a lick yet, and Stanton struck out 12 times, I think, and 21 at bats before today. Oh, God. Anyway, you got to win close games, and the Yankees are doing just that. The Red Sox surprising, a little bit of a surprising start. They won their last 4, and they're 5-2. The Orioles 4-2, no surprise there. Might pick to win the World Series. Tampa Bay 3-4. I think again, it's early in the year, right? It's the first week, 7 games of the season. If this 7-game stretch happened anywhere else in the season, we probably wouldn't be getting excited about any of these records, whether they're good or bad. So we have to take that into consideration. But both the Rays and the Blue Jays have gotten off 3-4. We've talked a lot about Schneider in Toronto being maybe on one of the hotter seats in baseball. Chris F. Grave and I have talked. I think we talked. Actually, no, I was talking with one of the reps that works for me who lives in Ontario. He's a big Blue Jays fan, and he agrees with me that Donnie Baseball will be the manager there sooner than later. In Toronto media, the trade that sent Gabriel Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel to Arizona being coined the worst trade in Blue Jays history. Well, I can understand why. Both those guys were major contributors to a World Series appearance by the Diamondbacks last year. They're both players. Moreno, I think, is getting better and better behind the plate and at the plate. And I mean, who came back in that trade? Chris, was that Varsho? I think I like Varsho. He's a really good defensive player. Struggled offensively last year. He's got some pop, though. He's got some tools. So I don't know if it's, I mean, given the fact that these two guys performed the way they did and the Diamondbacks made it to the World Series, I can understand that. I'm trying to think of some other trades the Blue Jays have made. I mean, they did trade away Fred McGriff, too, didn't they? Actually, the Yankees started that off. Let me get my music down here. But was that, again, I think that was the Varsho trade. I'm not positive, but I think it was. And I like, again, that's a guy, Varsho's a guy the Yankees were after last offseason as well. I find it very hard, Rick, to think that Cole would be back. Again, I know you just joined us. Bad news for the Yankees today is Loaizaga goes on a 60-day DL with a tendon issue. I don't know that that's going to be 60 days. Cole went on a 60-day disabled list before the season started, which, again, he'd be almost 10 days, 9 days into that. He's not coming back. He's not coming back in May. Let's put it that way. Mid-June, I think, would be optimistic. Because you got to remember, he's going to have to rehab this. If you have to rehab the injury, then he's going to have to get back into major league pitching shape. If in fact that rehab works, I have my doubts. I don't trust the Yankees training staff. I don't trust what comes out of there as far as injury reports. I've got a bad feeling for both of these guys. I got a feeling there's Tommy John surgery in the offing for Loaizaga potentially. And the only thing that makes me think I'm wrong about my original thought process on Cole is if they knew that he was needing the surgery, they would have it now. And to me, unless there's a 90% chance he's coming back in June or even July, and he's going to be close to the Cole that we had and not risk further injury, unless you're 90%, at least 90% sure of that, I would have had surgery and get him back sometime in 2025. So hopefully their analysis is correct and we don't wait until July and he has his surgery, because then he's going to miss all of 2025 as well. So Anyway, while there's good news in Yankee land, there's also some storm clouds. There's a lot of Loizaga joins a whole list of guys that are on the DL and from the bullpen. Tommy Canely, a local product up here in upstate New York. Trevino, and a bunch of other guys. So we'll see. Again, I mentioned the Tigers, 5-1, good start for them. Some of their young guys playing really good baseball. I just want to look at some of their numbers real quick. We aren't going to look at all these teams. We'll look at some of them. Spencer Torkelson, not hitting that great. I wasn't going to bring him up. He's had a bad spring. He's a good ball player. Had a bad spring training. I think he'll bounce back. I mean, they're doing this. And one of their best young players, Riley Green's off to a bad start. Did hit a big home run the other day, but he's only hitting 143. Colt Keith, their big prospects, only hit 200. Javi Baez, 211. Team's hitting 210. 210. Their OPS is only 606. And they're 5-1. So that tells you their pitching is doing very, very well. My pick for Cy Young in the American League was Tariq Skobel. And he's off to a pretty good start. In his first start, 6 strikeouts and 6 innings. I think he might be pitching today. We'll see what that looks like. Shelby Miller, who we haven't heard a lot about in forever, has got a win under his belt. 2 wins under his belt, 9 innings pitched and 6 innings pitched and 6 strikeouts. Jack Flaherty, who is one of their free agent pickups, has pitched well under. By the way, no runs given up by the first 2 guys I mentioned. Only 1 run given up by Flaherty so far. So early on, and the results look impressive for the Tigers, and we'll see if that continues. Again, long ways to go. You got to take this stuff with a grain of salt. Elsewhere in the Central, the Guardians, who I thought would would struggle this year, and they'd have a hard time finding runs and a hard time finding outs. They're off to a 6-2 start. And they've won 3 in a row. The Twins, 3-3, my pick and Drew's pick, I believe, to win the division. 3-3, the Royals, 3-4. A lot of people think the Royals will be better this year. I do not. And the White Sox, who I think will be dismal, 1-5 start, proving that, at least early on, to be true. There's nothing left in free agency when Jackie Bradley is Wally Backman still managing the Ducks? Who's managing? I got to see who's managing the Long Island Ducks. I want to check their roster out. Long Island Ducks, by the way, have had some pretty good teams and some pretty good players play there over the years. Ricky Henderson played there 1 year. Marky Lyle managed there for quite a while. Long Island Ducks. Let's just see. I want to see who else is on their roster this year. Roster. Who's the manager? Lou Ford, actually. I was wrong. Yeah, Lou Ford, former Major League Baseball player. I believe with the Orioles, I want to say. Got to see if we can get Lou Ford on here. Where's the roster? Jackie Bradley Jr., as Chris just said, I mean, he can't find a job. He's playing independent baseball now. Where's the... Here's the roster. See, anybody else on there we know? We know Lou Ford. Bobby Blevins is a pitching coach. I'm looking to see if we have any names this year other than we and Chen, I think we know. He's a pitcher. Right-handed. I think he's a right-handed pitcher. No, he's a left-handed pitcher. No real other names. Jackie Bradley, they're still signing guys because that's a very short roster. So they're still getting ready for their season. Independent league probably doesn't start until June or July. Probably June, sorry. That's when they start up here with the Valley Cats. Drew's in, just back from running errands. Good to have you with us. I didn't feel the quake because you have no nerves in your butt. And yes, the Blue Jays trade was for Varsho. Thank you. And I did say Drew was the first one in, had a group text with some of the fantasy baseball guys that the epicenter of this was New Jersey. I saw more recently, and again, I'm not sure where his son and daughter-in-law live, but they live in New Jersey, and it was near them. I'd heard 45 miles from the city, and I'm assuming they don't live much further than that from the city. So anyway, where are we? Where was I? The Rangers 4-2. Listen, off to a pretty good start. I was ridiculing. I mean, who needs a team meeting after two games, 2 losses for the Angels? I like the Angels this year. I did think they finished 500. I know Drew did not agree with me. And again, 6 games in, not a big sample size, obviously. Maybe this team meeting was, maybe every team ought to, maybe the Mets and the A's and the White Sox ought to have team meetings after every 2 losses, because they've now ripped off 4 wins in a row since that team meeting. Trout playing well. Seattle Mariners 3-4. The Astros 2-5. If I'm not mistaken, they have not won a game that their pitching staff has given up more than 1 hit. Just saying. I still like the Astros in that division. And, of course, the Athletics, who I talked about earlier. Drew, I don't know if you saw it. I think it's appropriate that the A's are moving to a 14,000, what will be with renovations, a 14,000-seat stadium in Sacramento. Because a minor league team should be playing in a minor league stadium, and this team is awful. 1-6. I'll be talking about their pace to lose 100 and, well, I won't do it now because now their pace would be to lose about 140 games. I'm going to root for this team to lose 121 games again this year, as I did last year. Outscored already by 29 runs. The Marlins outscored by 30 runs. That's atrocious, man. And how do they send down one of their better ball players who was playing pretty good in Ruiz? How do you say his name, Drew? I think I was able to put him on I don't have my phone with me. I wanted to get to, how do they send down like the guy who's hitting the best on their roster? Let me see if he's still on their stats. This is what confounds me about this team. Is he still here? Yeah. Ruiz Astoria, I'll say his name wrong. Only 7 at bats, but he's hitting 429. They sent him to the minors. There's something going on I don't know about. I don't understand. More nonsense in Oakland. I think they want to lose. Vegas better be, maybe in 4 years. And by the way, they've got an option for a 4th year in Sacramento in case that stadium's not done. Maybe they'll be better in 4 years. I don't know, but I see no sign of this team attempting to improve itself even a little bit. Chris, it's an important part of the season. Well, no, I'm not saying it's not. All the games count, right? But my only point is, you win. If you go 6 out of 7 in August or lose 6 out of 7 in August, you notice it, but it's not as noticeable as when it's at the very start of the season. That's all I'm mentioning. And you do want wins now, and you're not trying to play catch up to the playoff hunt. Well, you're right. The A's are already, they're only 3.5 out. They're still alive. I hope that's what it is in that video game baseball, sending players back down to the minors after an inning of work. Oh. I got to tell you, this is the worst run organization in baseball right now. Again, these should be smarter baseball people than me, but I don't know. I knew about Sacramento, No, I just wanted to mention that. I figured you knew about it. I just wanted to let you know that I mentioned it. The A's, you know what? I'm not so sure they will sell out there. Astoria is just too fast for them. They try to put him in the game and he's already halfway home. It's just comical to me. Listen, if you didn't watch the show last year, you'll know that I will be talking about the A's pace for losses. I won't start until we get through April, maybe. But I'll be talking about this every week. Because last year we had the A's and I think the Royals, wasn't it, for a long on a pace to lose over 120 games, which would be a record. Let's move into the National League a little bit. The Braves off to a 3-2 start. The Phillies 2-4. The Nationals 2-4. The Mets finally get a win. If they'd lost, and they had to come back to do it. Now they had a doubleheader the other day. Great video of Gary Cohen, one of their broadcasters during the rain delay. But the Mets, if they'd gotten off 0-6, it would have been the worst start since 1963, their second year of existence. Mets, surprisingly, their pitching hasn't been awful. We expected it to be awful, and I still expect it to be awful. But it's been the bats that have gone cold. Pete Alonso woke up a little bit the other day. We'll see where the Mets start to get it going. The Marlins, speaking of bad, the Marlins have lost their first 8 games. Minus 30 run differential, as I said earlier. Perez going to have Tommy John surgery. Not a lot of hope right now on the horizon for the Miami Marlins. Skip Schoonmaker, am I saying that right? Is not going to repeat as the manager of the year in the National League. So we'll probably have at least a 2-team, maybe a 3-team, maybe 4 teams. When you think about Oakland, you think about Chicago and how bad they'll be, the White Sox, how bad the Marlins will be, and how bad the Rockies will be. One of those teams might have a shot to lose that 121 games. Chris, are your contacts primarily baseball fighters? No. We've got actually some interesting people that we're talking about. And I know, here we go, right here. Sorry, let Chris answer for himself. Baseball, Olympics, hockey, mostly to start. He's got a very interesting, a couple of very interesting people lined up, which I won't talk about too much until we know more about them coming on. We know we're going to get Marty Cordova. And we're starting to look, I'm focusing on baseball, even in my my revisiting of my list of prospects. Rick, I'm concentrating on baseball here early because baseball season just started. I won't be afraid to go to some football for sure. I mean, I had some interviews that kind of fell apart near the end. And then I decided not to chase them around when Dan Harris got sick, and they kind of put me off. But I did want to revisit with Jim Kern from the Texas Rangers. He definitely wanted to come on. Jim Sundberg from the Texas Rangers wanted to come on. I had Reggie Brooks, former Notre Dame running back, all set to go, and he fell asleep and didn't show up for the interview. But so we've got some people I can go back and revisit and try to rekindle those. I've reached out to a bunch of people already. Kay Mercer I reached out to, and I really hope Kay comes on. I know when Dan was doing some legwork for me, she really wanted to come on, and the timing wasn't good. But I'd love to talk to Kay because Bobby Mercer was my guy growing up, and still to this day my favorite Yankee of all time, and he always will be. And I want to talk to her. She hasn't responded yet, and I don't like to badger people. This isn't my real life where we badger people until they take our calls. But I plan on having some fun with it. And baseball may be the the focus, and including hockey and the Olympics. Chris has got some contacts there. So, and if you didn't catch it early on, next week, this show will be more or less preempted for an live interview with former Twin Rookie of the Year, a really good young player, especially early in his career. Marty Cordova will be with us in this hour next Friday. Then we'll go to 9:00 on Friday mornings. Will be the interviews live, and we're going to do them live again. If you remember, when we first had when I first started doing this, it was all interviews, and they were always live. And then when Dan was helping me out, we had recorded them and without audience participation. And I want you guys to be involved. So we'll do a Q&A. I'll do a little interview portion, 20 minutes, 30, whatever it takes. There'll be an hour scheduled. The interviews could go 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A. And I might throw a few comments up while I'm interviewing, but I want to keep the flow going and still get you guys involved. So we'll do that. We'll have some fun with it and get back into it. Drew, the racing bratwurst in Milwaukee almost ran over Buxton, barely avoiding his next injury for now. I'm surprised that, just the whatever. I'm sorry. I'm surprised the motion didn't give him vertigo or something. The motion of the bratwurst running by him. There's very few guys with the potential that Buxton has had and wasted during his career. Oh, these guys, I'm telling you. I'm just distracted by a work message. Guys got great potential, great tools, and just can't stay healthy. Mohawks get more fans than the Mets had yesterday. The Mohawks may outdraw the A's this year. I mean, when you do it per game. Their season will start, I think, in June as well, right, Rick? I don't think it starts in May. June, when the college season's over. I know all the college players don't join them right away. But check out, if you live up here, get to one of the Perfect Game League games. That's really good baseball. You see some really top level major conference baseball players and guys who will play in the major leagues at some point. You'll get to see play now. Going to get to the Valley Cats this year too. I see they've got a Dustin. I'm a big Dustin Lynch fan, and he will be appearing at a Valley Cats game and performing. So I plan to get there. That's the independent league here in Troy, New York. Independent league. They used to be affiliated with the Astros for 2 decades before they dumped them when the whole what's the word I'm looking for? Contraction, I guess, of minor league teams happened. I was going to Pittsburgh now. Pittsburgh again last year. They got this hot start. Mark Mancini. I'm already seeing him chirping. If you're watching, Mark, or you hear this later, talk to me in July or August, okay? The bottom fell out of the Pirates last year. I did say the Pirates could be better. I like some of the talent that they've put together, but nice start for them. The Brewers, who I don't have a lot of hope for, start off 4-1. The Reds 4-2. I know that's one of Drew's hot picks this year. The Cubs, who we both picked to win this division, 4-2, and the Cardinals 4-4. So this is right now the best division in baseball. So Cubs won 4 in a row now, by the way. It's an interesting division. Other than the Brewers, I mean, I think everybody could contend here. I feel like the Reds might take a little step back, as I said in the preview show, and we'll find out. The Dodgers off to a 7-2 start. Dodgers are going to be really good. Ohtani finally gets his first home run the other night. He did get a standing ovation. I don't know if we talked about that last week. I think we might have. He got a standing ovation. And it's interesting. We talked about, and there was a lot of chatter that this whole gambling fiasco with Ohtani and his well, I shouldn't say with Ohtani's translator, because it's not Ohtani that did anything wrong here by any evidence we have right now, other than being a very stupid human being. As I said, there's really nobody can steal $4.5 million from me except my wife. But it's gone away. I barely hear a whisper about it here the last week, or all this week anyway. So maybe this will. And again, MLB is investigating it, so we'll see how that works out. But I don't know. I'm going to wait till the evidence is in, Chris, trying to remember what Rick referred to here. Oh, the game with the Mets. I saw that game. I tried to find the attendance numbers for the Tigers and Mets. I'd ballpark 1,300 people at the most. They probably reported 7,000. The A's reported 7,000 for their opener. And from every shot I saw, they must have counted everybody at least 3 times. Correct. Danny Fuller from the West Coast. Good to have you with us. Danny used to like the Cubbies. He's a big Dodger fan. He sent me some nice shots and I know he posted them on Facebook too. Danny was at the Dodger game a couple of nights ago. Had some great seats. And was that Ohtani's? That was Ohtani's home run. Yeah. Ohtani's first home run. He said he had a video of it and he had sent it to me, and I know he posted on Facebook. So congratulations to your Dodgers, off to a great start at 7-2. Ohtani gets his first home run, and things have quieted down in the translator department. But Danny used to like the Cubs. They did to the manager. Go Brewers. Well, the Brewers are going to finish last in that division, first of all. I do agree with you on what they did to David Ross was not cool. David Ross had done a really, I think, maybe I shouldn't say a really good job, but for the most part, a good job managing that team. Probably didn't warrant getting fired. It would not have gotten fired if Craig Counsell had not been available. And, there used to be a code amongst managers that you didn't talk about a job that somebody already was in, and you didn't go looking for a job that somebody else already had. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And I think it's classless, Danny, as well, what the Cubbies did. And Craig Counsell, a guy who I like and have had respect for, I think it's kind of classless the way he slid himself in there and made himself the highest paid manager in Major League Baseball history at the same time. But, in today's world, I guess you got to look out for number one because nobody else is going to look out for you. Drew, official attendance for those Detroit. Yeah, 15,000. Includes all the poor season ticket holders who won't show up out of embarrassment. I always love Major League Baseball and how they report these attendance figures because, for years, even the Yankees, when I was a kid, the Yankees were drawing like 800,000, 900,000 people for a season, but you see individual games. And I was at games when I was a kid where it felt like there was 1,000 people in the park and they'd report it was, 20,000. What else we got here? Michael Conforto and Tyler O'Neill, nice comeback stories. Tyler O'Neill's had a good start. Again, 7 games in. We've got to continue to qualify all of our comments, including my own here today, that we're 7 games in. But yes, Conforto, amongst a disappointing start for the Giants at 2-5, my pick, that's my sleeper pick in the National League to sneak in and get a wild card along with Detroit in the American League. So Conforto's off to a good start, though. The Giants have lost 4 in a row, too, by the way. The Diamondbacks are 4-3, the Padres 4-5, and the Rockies -6. 1-6. And they found a way to get outscored by 34 runs in 7 games. In 7 games, that's 6 runs a game, almost. Right? Is my math right? I went to Perth. We don't math well in Perth. But all these guys, I mean, the A's don't look so bad now, minus 29. Through 6 games, 7 games in some cases. Minus 20 for the White Sox, minus 29 for the A's, minus 30 for the Marlins, minus 34 for the Rockies. Why get off the bus? Taylor Ward and Ryan Hoskins bouncing back nicely. Yeah. I know Drew's higher on Hoskins than I am. I have a problem, and you know what? I'm okay that the Mets wanted to throw at Ryan Hoskins because you take care of business on the field. But guys got to stop crybabying about getting hit at second base. Why are Major League Baseball players such... There's a word I'd like to use that I'm not going to. But why are they such whiners and criers? Do they want nobody ever to slide hard into second base? They don't want anybody to ever pitch inside to them. Oh, man. Even Perth grads will call BS on those. I think it's Perth grads that are doing the counts in the first place. I never figured out how the Brewers never bashed their way to the finals with the Brew Crew. Actually, even before that, yes, this was a good team. Jeff Jenkins, I like. Corey Hart, 2 guys that I thought were going to be really good, were good ball players. I thought they might be great players. Never quite reached their potential. Prince Fielder, Ryan Braun, we know that he might have been a creation of steroids. Ricky Weeks, those were great teams. Good call, Chris, back in the, what? I don't know, 2010. I'm not sure exactly the time frame we're talking about, but this one. Brew Crew's had some, the Brew Crew that I think of is Harvey's Wallbangers. A couple iterations of the Brewers could never quite get over the hump. The Brewers in the late 70s were stymied. They had great teams under George Bamberger. And then later, Buck Rogers could never quite get over the hump with the Yankees and the Red Sox. And a little bit of a retooled team, but very similar teams in the early 80s could not get past. They got to the World Series, couldn't get past the Cardinals, and never really rebounded. Pitching was always a problem on all of these teams, that it would seem. Then they were really bad for quite some time and had a good team with this bunch that you mentioned. And again, I would guess pitching would be the problem there as well. But really good teams for sure. Dodgers went up 2-0 on the Cubbies. Now the Cubbies went up 6-2. Now it's 6-4, going to be a slugfest. Ohtani has a 2-run homer again today. He's hot. As I said, Danny was there for his first home run the other night. Mookie Betts off to a tremendous start. This is about as good as it gets. Everybody talks about Soto's start. How about this start? 5 home runs, 9 base on balls. That's pretty good. Ray Golick, how are you doing, buddy? Good to see you. It is a long time no see. Ray Golick, a big Yankee. I think you're a big Yankee fan, if I'm not mistaken, Ray. Good to have you with us. Hope you'll pop in from time to time. Ray does some great stuff with Make-A-Wish, by the way, up here in Fulton, Montgomery County. I'll give the 2 counties because I'm not sure exactly, Ray, but good to have you with us today. Ray is one of the guys, when I first started, considered doing this. Ray was a loyal follower of Joel Terry on Wake Up to the Vibe. And so I met Ray. We did a really weird, what was that? What did Joe call that show we did when we did the role play and oh God, it was so fun. It was fun. Good. I'm glad you're doing well. I knew you were a Yankee fan. Just wanted to make sure because I know your football allegiance doesn't match up with mine. And there's Rick. What do we got going on tonight? Or this weekend, I should say. Whoops, hold on here. That was crazy. They just reposted it. Did he? Oh, I can't remember. He called that show something, but it was all ad lib stuff, and we role play. It was pretty fun. Ray and I did a scene together. I watch it and I crack up. If maybe I'll find it and share it to the page, my page, just because it was too freaking funny. With Teoscars, we got about 5 minutes left here, guys. With Teoscars, 4 home runs. Good start for Teoscar for sure. This Dodger team seems to have chemistry. Well, again, I don't know. The 4 home runs shows chemistry, but I get your point. Oh, I see what you're saying. Where one starts hitting, everyone starts hitting. Well, I guess you could call that chemistry. Again, I went to Perth, so I don't really know what chemistry is. I would call that feeding off one another, right? But again, I do get your point, I think, Chris. What do you got, Ray? Wake up to the vibe. Yeah, I might share that. That was too funny. Oh, God, as we said, we got 2 games going live right now. Let's look at what's going on this weekend. These series will go through the weekends. I'll give you tonight's starters. Right now, it's 6-5 Cubs over the Dodgers. And the where's my Yankees? They're down 2-0 now to the Blue Jays. Vlad Guerrero 0-for-5 with 3 strikeouts. Glad to see he's doing well. Real quick. Tampa Bay visits Colorado. Zach Littell against Austin Gomber tonight. Baltimore at Pittsburgh. An interesting early season matchup. Rodriguez and Jared Jones. San Diego at San Francisco. Dylan Cease and Jordan Hicks. Thought I heard my generator kick in. Mets trying to get a little momentum going. They do have a 1-game winning streak, I'd like to point out, for all you Met fans. They'll go to Cincinnati. It'll be Quintana against Hunter Green. Philadelphia at Washington. Nola against Corbin. Arizona and Atlanta. Tommy Henry against Spencer Strider. Chicago White Sox will have, what's this, a doubleheader? Oh, that's right. Cease got traded. Chicago at Kansas City. Eric Fetty against Brady Singer. Houston and Texas. Hunter Brown against Cody Bradford. Again, this is a big series, I feel like, for Houston. They're off to a bad start. Rangers off to a better start. Early season, I know, but I'm not saying must win, but I think this is an interesting series here the second week of April. First week of April still, right? Right? Seattle at Milwaukee. Logan Gilbert at Freddie Peralta against Freddie Peralta. Peralta, the best pitcher on that Milwaukee staff, and Milwaukee off to a better start than I would have thought. I really like this Seattle pitching staff, by the way. And then we got Boston at the Angels, a surprising Angels. I was ridiculing them. Who has a clubhouse meeting after 2 losses? Well, they've run off 4 wins in a row, so good for them. Don't turn on the Yankee game. I have it on here. It was in commercials, so I couldn't get the score, and I haven't been able to look over. My take on Bauer. It's hard to get in this take on Bauer with a couple minutes left. We might go a couple minutes long, but I can't go more than a couple minutes long. I've got a commitment I got to honor. Trevor Bauer's not a good guy. Whether this woman lied or didn't, I guarantee you Trevor Bauer was involved in something he should not have been. Trevor Bauer has been involved in these types of issues, not to this extent, previously in his career. I do not have a problem if no major league team ever signs Trevor Bauer. I don't want him on my team. Besides, he's a great pitcher. But besides his problems off the field, he's not a good guy in the clubhouse. So if he's blackballed from baseball, then I don't feel sorry for Trevor Bauer. But Trevor Bauer created his own problem. And you'll say he was set up, or, she lied, she did this, she did that. But smarten up and don't put yourself in these positions. Just my thought. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for being here, TGIF. Again, just a quick reminder. as I wrap up here. And Ray, great to be back. Please tune in. We do the Major League Baseball every Friday. Next Friday, though, we'll have a special edition where we'll have an interview with Marty Cordova, former Rookie of the Year with the Minnesota Twins. We're going to be returning to one-on-one with Keith Engle at 9 a.m. on Fridays the week after that. Next week, I'll be on to kind of talk a little bit about some of the people we might have lined up and what's going to happen. Maybe the Mad New Yorker will join me for a goodbye. And again, no reflection on Carlos. It's just I decided it was time to move on and go back in a different direction, or in a direction I've been before. That's just my take anyway. Opinions are like, you know what's, right? Everybody's got one, right? As we get ready to wrap up here, hang on. I'll get to some of your comments as we head out the door. Ray was great setting up bus trips for the kids and Mets on the field. Ray's a good guy. Ray does a lot of great stuff. Thank you, Ray. More MLB to come. Have a great weekend, guys. Everybody, you do the same. I got one more comment that I missed. Ray, I'm glad to see you. See, it's always old home week here on my show. Everybody sees people they haven't seen. I picked up for Joe Altieri in that regard. Keith Engle for TGI Sports Talks MLB update. We'll see you on Sunday with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. See you later.